MicdUp.
Hello, everyone. This is Ask Aaron and EJ, Mic'd Up Show. Welcome in, everyone. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
This is Coach Aaron, the source. EJ, what's on tap for this morning? What's our topic?
Aaron, we're going to talk about busy athlete versus the purposeful athlete today. And what does that mean? We've got all these guys coming into the gym or hitting or fielding or doing anything in any sport. And it seems like they're just showing up to be busy, or are they really having a goal and they're purposeful in their work and they're engaged in it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I think I see a mix of both these days, Aaron, and I'm sure you might see that, but I think it's good.
Yeah, you went out there on that last part there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's a good topic today to talk about the purposeful athlete versus the busy athlete, and we both see kind of a mix of both coming in, whether it's into the gym or is back there hitting with me or fielding with me, or what we see in our players. So it's great to talk about that today, Aaron.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what comes to mind to me is it. There's a, I don't know, propensity for athletes to feel like they have to do everything,
Mm-hmm.
and so sometimes I think it just stems from that aspect of trying to get everything in. They're bombarded with so much information, and they just think, oh man, I got to get this in, I got to get that in, I got to get running, I got to get lifting, I got to get skills, I got to get mental work, I got to get recovery, I got and
Right.
those things do um, have to be in the mix. But what ends up happening is everyone kind of just adds those, they kind of just throw those things in kind of haphazardly, and they're not really understanding the purpose or intent behind those things. So you got kind of this whole casserole of nonsense of all these things that really aren't, you're doing a lot of stuff, but you're not really being effective with anything because you're trying to cover so many bases. And
Right.
so, that may come back to being organized, time management, those sorts of things. Then the other thought that I had on this was that um, it there's there's a, I don't know how to describe this, but there's I don't know, psyche, for lack of a better term, in athletes now, that they they feel like they need to appear busy,
Mm,
appear to be doing something,
right.
versus versus not doing anything. And
Right.
some not doing anything is a good thing, and I'm not sure if they understand the difference. And I know part of it is, are you there? Because you froze up.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
here.
oh,
I'm here, man. I'm
your
listening. Listen closely. I'm here with you.
video froze up, but
Oh, okay. Okay.
there. But I think some of that might stem from how we've got the we have a fast moving society, and everyone's multitasking, everyone's doing,
Right.
going, and no one kind of sits back and kind of just maybe takes in the moment and
Right.
focuses on that moment, and it makes that moment, you know get the most out of that moment, um for when they're training. I get this a lot of times with soccer athletes, where
Okay.
you get the um they're running to every station, they go, and it's like, you got to slow down. And it's not just about go, but it's about internalizing the work that you're trying to get done, and then executing it properly, versus
Mhm.
just kind of, you know running from one station to the other and thinking that impresses the coach. And maybe it does in some instances because I see it a lot. And maybe that's
Yeah.
just how, soccer practices are run. But that's not how training should be done.
Mm. Mm.
And I think there's a
Yeah.
difference. So I'm
Yeah.
not that they're doing that in their practices, but
Mhm.
it's not, it doesn't work for training.
Right.
Not when you're trying to acquire and learn skill. Not when proper recovery periods affect the outcome of power production and muscle, growth and those sorts of things. So you've got to have two different types of mindset. And then the
Right.
other, and I'll stop after this last thought. But the other thing too is, and I see this a lot with football players, and it's the whole yes coach, yes coach, yes coach kind of thing,
Yeah.
where again, I don't know if they're really internalizing the communication that's going on, but more or less kind of just trying to appease, or they're kind of drilled into them, hey, you have to respond to the coach this way, in terms of your communication. But are they really hearing what you're saying? Are they, are you hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth? Sort of.
Right. Right.
And so I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think there's just the nature of how these kids are practicing and how they're being brought up. Um, it's those environments. It's our own societal environment. On again, the whole thing to be multitasking and moving and going and going. Um, but it doesn't serve you well when you're in a proper uh, performance and training atmosphere. So anyway,
Yeah, I think man, you hit on a lot of great points, and I think about a pitching coach I had in A ball back in 1988. His name was Todd Oakes, and we'd be on these long bus rides at night, and everybody be sleeping. We'd be reading books and talking about the mental side of the game. And one of the things he said was make it happen versus let it happen. And I find that when you said training mentality versus practice mentality, training mentality, let it happen. Don't make it happen. Let it happen. Slow down, contemplate, think about what you're doing, you know, understand how you get your body to move a certain way. Try to perform it correctly versus practice mentality. Make it happen. Go faster.
right?
More reps. More reps. You've got to go. You got to do more because more is better. That's our society, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
said that about society. More
yeah,
is better. Not necessarily. I think being purposeful, taking your time, understanding what you need to do, how to do it, is important. I watch you train as I walk in the facility early sometimes, and I watch you run sprints, and I watch the purpose and the intent you have when you're running a sprint to take your time, get out of the blocks, stuff like that. When I go to the golf course, I'm practicing, and I'm not hitting 150 balls, Aaron. I'm hitting 35 shots with a routine and trying to execute that routine so when I get on the course to perform in competition, then I can go to it, and I think that's what we're saying. That's what we want everyone out there to really understand is that you know have ha- have some goals when you're training, and those goals can't be go faster,
yeah,
hurry up, get more in. I
right,
see, and you're right. I see a couple guys in the gym. I hate those guys' name out there, but I am Robert Stevenson. I have to mention that again because I watch him train a lot. I just watch him. I slow down and just go back and just watch how he goes about his work, and then I start looking at other athletes and how they go about it. And I can see that he's trying to make sure every move he does in training applies to what he does as a pitcher, and it's skilled, so, you know, I agree with you, Aaron. I don't know what makes athletes and And I tell parents out there today, hey, parents, slow your athlete down a little bit. Get them to understand, or have them maybe write some stuff down, Aaron. Write down what you did in your training and how can you make it better. You
Right.
know, as a purposeful athlete. That's kind
Right.
of like my little take on it, Aaron, about a couple things like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I run a performance training center, and most people come to me for speed.
Right.
But one word that you never hardly hear me say in my gym is faster.
I never hear you say that. I never hear you
Yeah.
say that.
And so it's kind of funny. And, but I always use a saying that I stole from you,
Mm,
and I love it because your saying is correct is fast enough, and that can't nothing can encapsulate more my philosophy on how athletes should be training. Now, I do want to kind of take this to another aspect, and you know, when we're talking about purposeful training and busy work,
okay.
it, in, in terms of evaluating what you're doing, and
Mm,
is evaluating your work is what you have on your to-do list a lot of busy work, or is it purposeful work?
mm,
And can you define the purpose behind everything that you're doing? And if you can't say the reasoning behind why you're doing something, then there's no purpose to it. And then why are you doing it? And, that's the thing I see in a lot of training, is that people are doing things,
right.
but what purpose does it have? And if you can't draw that through line from I'm doing A, which will help B, which will result in performance C, then why are you doing it? And even if there is a good reason, do you understand it? And as it has been clarified to you, so that way you can get the most out of it.
Right.
So, I see, I'll be at the track or something, and I'll see, guy, bunch of kids doing football stuff or whatever. They're training, performance training, and it's like I see a lot of movement and I see a lot of hustle, but I don't see any connection to how is this going to help them better on the football field, or how is this going to help them better on the baseball diamond, uh,
Yeah.
or it's so there's a lot of there are thousands upon thousands of exercises. And so just doing a laundry list of exercises doesn't necessarily mean you're performance training. And to me, if you want to be an elite level athlete, there's only one type of training. It's performance training. It's not training. You're either
Right.
performance training or working out at the least. Okay. So
Right.
I look at it. So you have to really define what you're doing. Yeah, everyone has only so many hours in a day, so many available training hours. So you have to be purposeful and intentful with what the type of work that you're choosing to do, and what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Right. You know, it's funny. Um, I think when I see athletes in any sport or anywhere, especially young athletes, um, whether they're young kids in youth sports or high school players, I see a lot of people out there doing stuff, and I see this more work is better
Yeah.
mentality. Like you said, drills. They do a whole bunch of drills, but okay, we worked hard today. That's the first thing I hear um, from a lot of people. Hey, he's been working hard, or she's been working hard at it. Okay, and then I work out with them, and I go, okay, you're working hard. That's good. You're at least working, but there's a but in there with me. Is
Yeah.
like these are the things I feel you need to do and be conscientious about when you are working hard. I'd rather for you to take 15 purposeful and mastery of a skill or a swing than for you to take 100 repetitions and just work hard and sweat a lot. People equate sweating to training, Aaron. Like if I sweat a lot, I'm doing great.
Oh, yeah,
I have to bring that up because that's one of the things that you and I have talked about hey, you sweat a lot. Oh yeah, man, they're breathing hard afterwards and they're tired and I can barely walk out of the gym or I barely stand up after working out with you and I'm like, okay, so how are you going to recover? Which
yeah,
is very important part of training is how are you going to recover? You know, are you going to be able to work out tomorrow on these things that I want you to work out?
yeah.
You know, about, or are you going to be able to do it the every other day? You know, maybe you're not because you're destroying your body, you're tearing it down, breaking it down, and you cannot wake up when the bell rings, man. You can't get off the mat.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many fallacies about training that, again, to be fair, kind of old school kind of thinking, and there, wasn't a lot of science behind it. So I think
Right.
a lot of stuff still permeates the thinking of today, especially people who haven't been, who aren't in, the weeds like we are, and aren't educated on it. And, that's one of the biggest ones is they equate exertion to you know uh
Right.
I exerted myself, so I got a good workout. Yeah, and to an extent, yes, muscle adaptation comes from breaking down the muscle, but for a lot of athletes, when you're now talking about, and that's exercise, and that's how I would define it, that's exercise. When you're talking about performance training, you're not only exercising, you're also trying to acquire skill.
Correct.
Okay. And more often than not, acquiring a skill doesn't always require heavy amounts of exertion,
Right.
because you're trying to develop movement skills, mind
Hmm.
connection, those sorts of things. Those aren't based in exertion. And
Right.
so, that's one of the pitfalls people fall into, because yeah, I have parents, are, they're bringing maybe a youngster in now, because I'm getting younger athletes,
Right.
and they're like, make them sweat, make them tired. I'm like, the kid's 10 years old, he doesn't even have sweat. His sweat glands aren't even working right now. uh,
Oh man, I
you
love
know
it.
they're applying an adult standard to a young athlete. Um, and then the other, another fallacy, and this might be a little bit off tangent, but another fallacy is, everybody looking at the weight scale to determine, the effects of their training. Oh,
Right.
heavier, so I must be stronger. It's like, no, you're 10
No.
pounds heavier. There's a weight to power ratio that has to also be taken into account. So just because you gain 10 pounds doesn't mean it's 10 pounds of muscle, doesn't mean it's 10 pounds of torque, doesn't mean it's 10 pounds of power, you know. But everyone wants to weigh themselves, every day. And that's why I don't have a scale in the gym. 'Cause it's like, it doesn't tell you anything other than you're heavier. So, but
Right.
those are the sorts of things that we're fighting, and that permeate the thinking of athletes and parents right now.
Right, right. It's quite interesting. I see it, and I have some athletes go, "Hey, I gained 10 pounds." I'm going, "Okay. Nice, great, congratulations. Is this equating to what we want to achieve on the field?
Right.
Well, I'm looking more physical. Okay, that's great, but are you still running that sub 6'5" that you were running? And now
Yeah.
you're running a 6'9".
Yeah.
Boy, that's great. We we gained some weight, but whoa, we're not as fast and as athletic as we were now.
Yeah.
I agree with what you just said there. It's just I see it all the time. Especially in baseball athletes because it's just like I got to be more physical. I go, well, are you still doing things that you need to be a athlete on the baseball field? Are you still quick? Your first step's still good? Are you still explosive? And are you dynamic? Are you still making those spectacular plays? Is your arm stronger? I bulked up, but now I can't throw the ball as hard on off the mound. V- all that stuff. So, you know, just really have to understand what you're doing and find, if you don't know, ask a trained professional that can help you, that understands this mentality of being a purposeful athlete. You said this earlier, and I love this: mind and body connection when you're training.
Yeah.
Key for me right there, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on something where you described, you talked about physicality, because that's a word that's thrown out a lot now, and
Mhm.
I don't think people quite understand it. And there are two components to physicality. There is the form, there's the physical form, what you're looking at, the eye contest. But more importantly, there's the performance aspect of physicality. And you talked about that. You know, how dynamic are your movements? Are you explosive? What's your range like? You
Mhm.
does the ball bounce off the bat? Because you can be 20 pounds heavier, but if the ball's not firing off the bat, you know, what good does it do? I
Right.
take a kid who, that ball is snapping off the bat, who's 20 pounds lighter than the kid who's, uh big, looks the part, and there's no pop to it.
Right.
Same thing,
Exactly.
with a pitcher. So I think, yes, the physicality in terms of the form and the eye contest is one part of it, because yes, that can help sell you, but sports is a result oriented business. And at the end of the game, you're going to the people who are going to play, the people who are going to make a living at it, whatever you want. People who get scholarships are the people who produce, and you only produce when you can perform. And that's why, if you take a look at baseball, and it's a perfect example. Baseball is probably the one sport where you'll see the widest spectrum of bodies, if you think about it. And even
Yes.
back through history, you'll see guys who look like Adonis and very athletic, and then on one other end of the spectrum, you got Babe Ruth.
Right.
And they're both in the league at the same time. So there's no one profile, especially in a sport like baseball, because why? Baseball comes down to production.
Yes.
Baseball comes down to production. And those guys who can produce play, regardless of what their body looks like.
Right.
And if you look at baseball players as they're aging, they're the one sport where their bodies change quite a bit.
Oh yes. No question
You
about
know
that.
what I'm saying? You don't see that in football. You don't see that in, basketball.
You don't.
Look at LeBron. He looks pretty much like he did when he first came in the league. I mean, obviously he's bigger because he's gotten more mature, because he was a kid kind of when he came in. But if you look at most of these guys in basketball, bodies haven't changed.
No, they got muscles more. It looks like they get older, they get bigger, they get
I
more
was gonna say they
defined.
look even more physical.
Exactly. They don't look fatter, they look physical, man.
Yeah. And that's because they're keeping their production up.
Oh,
So,
oh.
that's how they keep their level of production up. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
whereas something in baseball where, it's skewed more towards the skill side, you know, they're letting that stuff go. So, to to me, it's saying you got to have the skill, you got to have the ability to produce,
Mhm.
you
Right.
got the ability to perform in a sport like baseball.
Yes, 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 sir. Well said right there, Aaron. Well said. I love it. I love it. Well, Aaron, man, that kind of wraps up what we're talking about today. And are you busy out there? Are you busy or are you a purposeful athlete? That's really the question. Are you that? hopefully, you know, you're that purposeful athlete that wants to understand what they're doing. So with that said, Aaron, this is Ask Aaron and EJ on Mic'd Up. Thank you guys for coming in today and listening to us.
We'll see you.